Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. My name is Mr. Ali with the community, with a real story on ZMC Network. I hope you're all well and enjoying the fantastic, the amazing weather that we've been having over the last week or so. I hope everything is okay. Today we, as always, are going to be talking about a very topical subject where we've seen over the news now where a number of young people are running away from home, and it is causing real distress to not only the individual who are, for one reason or another, having left with no choice but to run away from home, but also to the family, friends, and neighbours as well. But before we get onto that topic, I'd like to share with you the latest COVID dashboard for Birmingham and see how we are faring compared to the week previous. So we have seen an increase of 79 cases the previous week, and that means there's an increase. And in terms of the wards that are seeing the highest rates of incidence of COVID-19 are thus Bromford and Hodge Hill with 60, Small Heath with 52, Ward End and Alum Rock with 51. And in terms of where we are with the vaccination, last Saturday, the advantage of having the COVID mobile unit on Ward End Library car park. I'm vaccinated. There was absolutely no need for an appointment. All I had to do was queue up, give my personal details, and within 5 minutes I was vaccinated there and then. And what this means is until we all get vaccinated, then no one is safe. And the Asian community around Alum Rock and Ward End and Small Heath, we are about 25-30% below the UK average. And it is important, and it is imperative for us to all get vaccinated. Now it is anyone over the age of 25 that should be vaccinated. Your appointment at your nearest centre. And it is the Asian community, especially the Pakistani and the Black Afro-Caribbean community, that are being disproportionately affected by COVID, and the ones that are also not uptaking their COVID vaccine as well. So in terms of where we are, we have 29 million people that have been double jabbed. They have been fully vaccinated with 95% immunity. We also have a massive 44 million people in this country that now have been given at least the first jab as well. What we are seeing is an increase in the number of people suffering or contracting the Indian variant. There's about 232 cases within Birmingham as well, and we know this is far more infectious than the original COVID as well. So today, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to be talking about why do young people go run away from home or go missing, especially young girls as well. And today I have the lovely Zeenat Akbar, who's going to come and help me give a bit of context to why do young people go missing, in particular girls as well. So a huge warm welcome to the real story on ZMC Network. Thank you, Zeenat.
So,
hi Zeenat, you okay?
thank you. I'm okay. How about yourself?
Yeah, very good, thank you. I was just saying, it's just at the moment there's just too much uncertainty, too much change happening, and we don't know whether we're coming or going. But you know, we still got to count our blessings, haven't we?
Indeed, we've got to count the fact that we're safe, we're with our family, even though we're not going out and about where we normally used to. But I think the most important message is just to keep safe and just, follow the guidelines that government tells us to do. It just keeps everyone safe, doesn't it?
Zena, thank you for coming and providing some context to our story that we are covering on the real story. And it is all about being recently now, in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've had a young girl, age 14, run away from Warsaw. We've had a young Asian girl also run away from Small Heath, also age 14 as well. Both of them were safely without any real danger to them. But nonetheless, during that period of 24, 48, 72 hours, it is a real cause for concern for the police, for the immediate family, the neighbours, and also for the individual. And today is all why that is happening and what we can do to minimize these numbers. So the big sort of open-ended question: why do young people feel the need to have to move away or run away from their place where they feel home, where they've got a loving family, and have to go into the big wide world where we don't know what the dangers are?
Indeed. The reasons I disagree on safe. To a young child's mind, we have to understand, why does a child do it in the first place? Over the years, we've seen these social challenges, through crime, through health, through education. And we've got to understand the bigger picture as to, why is a child doing, why are they running, what is the need for them to run away? I want to talk about the COVID situation, then I'll talk about the previous years. So NSPCC reported that the calls that were made in November were 1,053 calls just in November 2020 in the lockdown because of domestic abuse.
Yeah.
Children often don't feel safe because, it could be that the parent is alcohol user. It could be that the mother and father are not getting along. And if they're not getting along, then how can we say that safe environment for that child to live in? So that's another why a child won't feel safe, that they need to go and feel safer. Another report that did come out with Child Society was that 144 children go missing in a year in the UK alone. 1 in 5 have surface in the past year, and 2 to 3 children who were missing were not reported. It could be crime related, like some of the girls are groomed. We're looking at they groomed online, they groomed on face to face, they're cursed to do certain sexual activity, they're abused in this society. So young people are very, very innocent, and they are obviously manipulated to do certain things that makes them want to go run away from home. It's unfortunate because the education and the awareness is not out there to understand why a child goes missing. Like, I think it was in one of the schools that we were working with, it was in 2019. This was before COVID, that one of the girls said that mom is never home. She never gives attention to the child. Obviously, the child's neglected. The child's not is facing loneliness, and then they are not tolerant to this kind of loneliness. So what happens? They get involved in crowds. They get involved in, someone might manipulate them to say, "Come on, come out. Let's do something bigger." So there's a major peer pressure influence on the child that makes the child act in a certain way. So the question is, when the child does run away, what happens? What is the outcome? What is the solution? And I know that
Before
child's,
you get to before
yeah,
you before you get there, we'll come on to that. I just want to explore what you said a bit more in greater detail, because I think you've made some real heavyweight comments. And I think sometimes it is a call for help when a young person runs away. You talked about sometimes the person being a bit too not around, the parents aren't around, they're busy working, or they may be spending too much time with their friends, or doing their hobbies or activities. Also, on the other end of the spectrum, as you've got very controlling parents as well, where they are every move, everything the children do, what time they're supposed to come back, what they eat, who they're phoning, who they're texting. And sometimes, because of maybe the difference in age or the culture, the era when these young people are growing up, is a very, very fluid culture where everything is on social media, is on their phones as well. And a lot of parents aren't IT or digital savvy, and they don't know what's going on, and they aren't able to connect with their parents, and vice versa. And sometimes I think that overprotection is very damaging as well, and that balance of moderation or the middle ground is sometimes ignored.
I totally agree. I totally agree because social media has a big influence. Look at TikTok. You've got lives, people talking, disgusting on lives. You know, the kind of images or the kind of things they portray. A
Yeah.
child, what is adolescent? It's a crucial. It's a crucial point in the parent's life to be able to be not
Yes.
absolutely present, and even when they feel present and when that control game tends to happen, it leads to what forced marriages, it leads to abusing the child, that it leads to the child, like just not recently, I think it was in Sparkhill County Line Work. I don't know if you had a 10-year-old, um, was it was evident that the father was sitting in the living room in Ramadan. It happened where child's phone was ringing. The father picked it up, and it was a drug dealer that turned around and said, "Where's my drugs?" And then they
Wow.
had to David the Islam to give the awareness, and it all comes
Oh,
back to
yes.
why. It could be, for instance, like I said about this a case study that I was telling you with one of the parent, is that the mum wasn't giving time to the child, and she was so strict with the child that you stay at home, you don't go anywhere. But then what would happen with that child? She was feeling lonely. So then,
Yeah.
irrespective, the child's anxiety, feeling lonely. On top of that, she was feeling controlled. Then the child needs that bit of freedom. So that's why a child runs away. Because if you're going to control your children, then your children are obviously going to rebel against you. You know how teenagers' puberty are. It's shocking. It's rising. They're learning about their sexuality. They're learning about relationships. They're learning about their gender. They're learning about things. And social media doesn't help. And then on top of that, if there's no freedom to it, if a child's not allowed to have a choice, if a child's not allowed to explore their feelings or talk to their parent, if that relationship is not healthy, then the child's going to go into drug kind of work or run away from home.
And sometimes, we always forget that we were young once, and even though we grew up a different, environment or in a different sort of age, nonetheless, we all know people that were bullied in school now. There was a report out today whereby 95% of school age girls reported that they have been sexually harassed or they've been given, indecent pictures, and they've been abused in school and out of school. And for me, that was just absolutely horrific. 95% is just very heartbreaking. And we also know that now everyone has has a phone in school. People Snapchat, and it's very fast moving. It's a very fast moving sort of life that we find ourselves in. And unfortunately, the online bullying that is going on, sometimes the children don't want to pass their worries on to their parents. They don't want to sort of go that open relationship, that open communication where they're able to pass on their worries and the bullying that they're feeling. So from your point of view, if you aren't able to sort of tell your parents, then obviously you got teachers, you've got other people that maybe within the family or your neighborhood that you can talk to. So you don't have to suffer in silence, do you?
No, you don't. And I don't believe the fact that, a young girl has to be coerced into being part of a grooming gang or be harassed at school. Because at the end of the day, girls, unfortunately, Ali, I got to be very honest with you, girls are very hard to understand what social identity is. And when I talk about social identity, they don't have a basic understanding about how to be confident. What does a healthy relationship mean? How is it? What is it that they need to be? The confidence, is the anxiety that comes with it. And when we talk about Snapchat, we talk about learned behaviors. Again, it comes from home, doesn't it? Or it's something they see. Pornography, like a 13-year-old that we worked in the school was watching porn, and that was something that was shocking. And obviously, in Southern Asian families, we talk about the respect, we talk about the honor, and just imagine if a mother did see that her daughter is sending nude pictures, then obviously that is not, that's going to be like a control thing that she's going to be feared as it is. And it's about going back to talking to teachers, having that trusting rapport, and speaking about their problems and issues. And unfortunately, kids don't do that because it all comes back down to what? Social challenges, um, you know,
Absolutely.
Snapchat.
I just want to I want to just come back in there, Zeenat, where you mentioned about the obviously some of the photos that are being sent, and I think sometimes we are sort of calling two cultures. I know because of our Islamic culture and background within our Indian continent culture as well. We are quite strict. I mean, even double stand our young girls as well, and we don't sort of let them express themselves and sort of are overbearing with them, and sometimes we're overprotective with them. And as you mentioned, sometimes what will happen is you will have the other extreme where they will start rebelling as well. And I think it's that sort of careful middle ground of sort of being a parent to them, but at least then having an open dialogue with their worries, with what's going on in school, and being able to relate to some of their sort of situations and some of their problems. And at the moment, I don't think that there's enough of parents that do understand, and vice versa as well. It's not just one way, and where young girls do also understand about some of their parents as well. And that's why we are seeing, especially more and young Asian people, and in particular young Asian girls running away from home.
Yeah, let's go back to why girls are acting in a certain way. And you got to understand, it all comes back to social media influences. If you look at
Yes.
Instagram, if you look at TikTok, they made the girls, and unfortunately, I know I've got daughters of my own, and I don't like to talk about other people's daughters because I don't judge, but I have to see what the problem is. The real problem at hand is this. You've got, like you said, the monitoring of the phone. How often are parents educated to see what is going on that phone? It's the pocket-sized phone. A child picks it 24/7. A child is looking at certain, trends, certain kind of, women that have made it so difficult for young girls that the social identity has been missed. You hear rap songs where they talk about, they sing in a they sing really, the way they describe women. This is how I'm not going to quote what they say, but they sing songs in a really rude way that I feel stumbled in my words, but I'm saying it because I feel disgusted. And things that they hear these kids, honestly, it just makes me blah, 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 blah. And you're like, oh my days, did my child just listen to that? And it's not controlled because parents are not educated. And like, I'm quite fortunate because I am educated, and I can talk to my girls. But then what about the parents that don't understand these songs? What about the parents that don't know what TikTok looks like or what it is?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and it is
I'm just
hard.
going to read out. Just going to read out some comments, Zenith, that are coming through. So, Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Ali, and to your guest, thank you. Extremely important issue. Thank you. This is a very interesting topic. I have grave concerns about our young girls going missing in our community. It is a wake-up call, and we need to support our young people in their crucial point in their lives that will determine their future. Well said, Javed. Muhtarim, wa alaikum salam. Don't let them use the internet. It's a solution to the problem. I think, Muhtarim, I think we have to be realistic, really. I think wherever you go, I think most people have internet, whether it's on from our broadband or whether it's hotspots or whether it's just 4G from our phones. I don't think ignoring the problem and looking at the symptom is the way forward. I'm also going to come back, teach them the right from wrong. Always keep tab on your kids. Yep. Thank you to Sister Zeenat Akbar for coming on this program to talk about this, especially as she had a very busy schedule. Every blessings and reward for you. Muhtarim has come back as well, said technology wrecks their life, phone and internet controls their life. So, a mixture of sort of comments there, but just your thoughts about, one of the guests saying that ban the internet, ban them from having access. Is that a real solution to the problem?
No, it isn't, unfortunately. We're in a norm now that you can't say banned internet. Unfortunately, our kids are going to find hotspots. Technology is so widely available that even now, with pandemic, what was used most importantly was technology. And we're going to a drive and change now, politically, economically, socially. Technology, it's open. It has to be there. Information there. It's about it's all about educating your children. It's about having a healthy relationship. But Ali, unfortunately, when some parents are not having that bond, not having that dialect, that important discussion with them about, you know,
Yeah.
the birds and bees or the knowledge about what you need to
Yeah.
discuss. We need to have these important, but obviously it's a boundary. You know, how do you discuss it with your child? You have to explain about the dangers out there. You have to make them aware to the, you know, like Child Society says that when a girl does go missing, the government introduced a thing called Return to Home interview. 1,807 children reported that the reason why they do not go home is because it's not a safe environment, or they're easily influenced because of what's going on in their homes, in the area that they live at. Anxiety comes part of it as well. Mental health plays a big part as well, Ali. So that's another, like, another kind of a issue all put together. That's like a whole list of things that we're looking at. How we tackle it is work with the schools, mentorship programs for young girls. You need to go out there. We need to work collaboratively and try to achieve that.
So you mentioned schools and you put a lot of emphasis, but I also think then it's the scenario at home that also needs improving or needs to be worked at. You know, at 4 o'clock when you come home, your parents may not be around. If they are, you know, they're busy. The mom's trying to maybe busy sort of looking after the home without stereotyping, of course. The dad may be working, and then, you know, because the mom isn't able to give her time after sort of, you know, feeding them the tea, then the son or daughter is then left to their own devices. What are they going to do? They are going to go on to their you know, their digital devices and sort of go on to the various apps and the social media and start interacting with, you know, all sorts of people from all over the world. And it may start as innocent. You know, we know about Shamima Begum, the 15-year-old that went to Syria. You know, she was a 15-year-old impressionable girl that managed to get seduced by this fantastic, you know, Sharia way of life that's going to go there. As soon as she went there, she realized that this is not, you know, what was promised. This is not, you know, a glamorous lifestyle, and she regretted what happened. But by that time, that's just one, you know, example. Other people here, you know, like you said, you know, drug lines or maybe prostitution or even sort of, you know, child abuse, whatever it may be. It's quite easy for them to happen, and the parents are completely ignorant to what's going on. Maybe because, you know, like I said, they're not familiar with the apps that are available, or they don't even know some of the issues or the way the young people are behaving, and they can't relate to it, and they don't have that relationship. So, like you mentioned earlier about maybe have, you know, conversations about, you know, relationships, about the birds and the bees. You know, I guarantee you that 90%, 95% of the Pakistani, the Muslim community don't have those sort of conversations with their children in a safe, protected environment. They leave it, you know, for them to find out from their friends, from the social media, and from the school.
I think, you know what, the important thing is it's about reaching out to organizations. If we're talking about birds and bees, we've got to talk about it in, like, in an Islamic perspective. You should talk about it, but it's like I said, I'm not going to put out a hadith or anything because I'm not that Islamically trained to give advice. But coming from my experience, when it comes to my children, it's the balance between, okay, here's a guy, you're a girl, you're going to have feelings, but just make sure that you protect yourself. Just understand, what does a healthy relationship look like. It's the way you say it to the child and the way they will understand it. Communication is a very important thing in the Pakistani and Muslim community, and unfortunately, coming from a Pakistani background, I think control plays a big part into it. That the expectation of how a child needs to be, it's fine. You know, we need to be safeguarded. Some of the Islamic values, some of the cultural values of faith. You know, we can't say what our parents think that we shouldn't do because they're protecting us. But equally, it's that control. How far are they going with that control? That that could lead that child to lead astray. And what does that mean? If the parent is absent, if the parent is saying to you, you know, get lost in your room, don't come downstairs until I say, it's the language you use with the child that's going to make them feel frightened, not feel safe. And also, you can understand, you know, back in our era, things were brushed underneath the carpet, Ali. Now things are open. Now things you report. You hear a lot of reports that, you know, the uncles, the child, these kind of abuses do happen at home as well. That leads a child astray. That makes people run away from home as well.
Most definitely. We'll read some more comments, Zeenat, if I can, please. How do we protect our daughters and young people people some harm. We're coming on to that. We will touch on what sort of preventative measures that we can put in place. Muslim has come back from his internet comment, Zeenat. Let them read the Quran more and more and pray 5 times a day. Keep them busy. Yes, that's in an ideal world, that's right. But Muhtarim, sometimes it's difficult when parents aren't praying, and then sort of trying to get them to do as well is very difficult. And that doesn't mean that in between they can't sort of keep themselves occupied as well. So someone loses a phone, it causes anxiety, absolutely. And then how many can say that they regularly have dinner with their family around the table? It is very important to give family time to our children, especially young girls, as they are more vulnerable to exploitation. We're just going to touch on that. Do you feel, especially within the the sub-Asian culture, the Islamic culture, where we are a bit more conservative and we are maybe a bit more overly protective with our daughters and our sisters, and we have that sort of double standard? So, for example, the son may be able to stay out until 11 o'clock, but the daughter has to come back at 9. The son can sort of buy whatever he wants. The daughter will be able to sort of wear or sort of buy certain things as well. So there's a lot of there's some sons that, I know it's changing. Sons were allowed to go to university. Some girls were told no, you can't, because you're going to get married and be a housewife. So we do have a culture. I know it's slowly changing and for the better. But what do you think? Does that also have a role to play in why some girls may think that we don't want to grow up in this culture, or they want to cause that disruptive change?
Right. Let's go back to the comment that the brother made about to have equal rights. Respects women. Certain things are things a man could do, and then certain things that a woman needs to do. But clearly, to a woman, put that in the mix. However, culture has backlashed it. Why? Because culturally, we've become a norm. We've become a community that they've gone OT with the situation. Boys coming late at night. It's more to do with the fact that the girl is sensitive. It's all about the respect. It's all about this. I totally understand that. However, they don't monitor what the boys do, and that hasn't happened. And we're not talking about now. We're talking about my era. We're talking about your era, Ali. The boys have had more freedom than the girls in education, in the way they're going out, in the way they meet with people. So that's always a conversation that's even now up until today that still takes place. However, the reason why the culture plays a big impact on our young girls is the fact that, again, it all comes back to education. They do not understand the difference between a boy and a girl. A boy is more favored because he's going to bring money home. However, are they educating the boy about how to keep a woman safe, how to treat girls? It's a big topic, and it could be very contradictory, very conflicting as well, because some boys don't treat girls right. We're talking about grooming cases. We're talking about these boys that are treating girls, sexual harassment, taking pictures of them. Why are these girls vulnerable? These girls are vulnerable because our parents are protective. But at the same time, they're not teaching the boy about the main principle of how to treat women. Some, not all, some. And then the girl, unfortunately, she's left in shallow mode. You know what? My brother's getting everything. I'm not allowed to do anything. What am I going to do? I'm going to rebel. I'm going to run away.
Zeenat, if you don't mind me asking, do you have a brother at all? Did you, when you were growing up? So did you have that sort of double standard in your family, whereby your mum and dad were sort of maybe overprotective for whatever reason, rightly so, wrongly so, and did you feel as though that your freedom, or you were being treated as inferior to your brother, or did you understand why they were doing it to protect, obviously, yourself from the big bad world out there? If you don't mind sharing your experience when you were growing up.
Okay, I was a rebel. I was a rebel.
Were you?
Bless my mom. I was a rebel. I love my mom so much. I love my mom because she knew I was hyperactive. She knew that I had to go after school clubs. I've got two brothers, so my mum used to allow me to play netball, cricket. I used to be part of UFA, University Face of Age. I was able to mix because my dad always said that we need to mix with other kind of crowds. Yes, I did get married at 17. I did get married in Pakistan. It was arranged marriage. I think that was a bit of like, protecting my daughters. But I think they were doing that again because their sense was that protecting your daughters, get them married quick. If it didn't work out, it was again in Pakistan. I married a Pakistani man that his values were we didn't connect. It was very, but I think my mom and my dad, they did give me a lot of freedom. They give me a lot of freedom now. Like my mom gives me a lot of freedom now. There's no such thing as my mom doesn't say go to work. I was working at the age of 15, Ali. My dad always said you need to start you need to start your labor at a very young age to appreciate it. And I'm so glad that he did that because being a single parent with three of my kids, if I didn't learn the labor at a very young age, I wouldn't be as independent as I am today because that was my parents giving me the freedom. However, other girls in my year did not have that. They were very suppressed. They were suppressed to the fact that they had to be home at 3:30. They had to make sure that they had scarves. Some girls used to like wear scarves, take their scarves off in schools and wear the lipstick because it was the control. And now I've got a daughter, and I expect her to have that bit of independence. I've got her into voluntary work. I need her to go see the world for herself. So to be fair, I was never stopped doing what I wanted to do. To be fair with you.
No, no, that's fine. We're just sort of coming towards the end of the show, and I'm going to sort of, spend the next maybe 3 to 5 minutes just talking about what can be done now. What can we do to improve the situation at home or online or at school in order for people to feel comfortable that they can speak to someone rather than taking that very dangerous and sort of move of just running away and sort of into the, like I said, the wide world, and anything can happen to them. So what would you say to the parents, to schools, to the individual, that young person? What can they do in order to sort of maybe improve things rather than running away?
Okay, so Children's Society, like I said, when a child goes missing, a child can approach Child Society and do a return to home. Many children tend to use that because it goes back to the fact that the police want to know, and the government have introduced it as to why the child ran away in the first place. Second would be interventions. Interventions is really important. The solution behind that is the fact that the teacher, the parent, need to work together to find out child in a safe place. Why did the child run away? It could be a couple of things. It could be bullying. It could be the fact that they are not happy at home. Police need to effectively work with the schools to try and safeguard that child. A child can also talk to somebody that is trustable in the community. There's a lot of awareness we have to raise as a community, like yourself, Ali, like myself. We have to raise awareness within our organisation to see if we can do interventions. We used to run workshops for our young people in Seek for Change, try and introduce more interventions. Instead of us working singly, we should work together as organisation and introduce those programs again. Mentoring programs is very important. Important topics like healthy relationships. And the last thing I would say that obviously if a child doesn't feel safe at home, then how can they talk to their parent? And the only thing that's going to be able to happen is that you need specialist support, and even if it means that it's talking to a psychologist, because it could involve mental health, it could involve grooming, it could involve a lot of things that obviously the child might be scared of discussing with the parent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to also echo that for those young people are at home and thinking that there's no support out there, mistaken. You've got your schools, you've got women's organizations, you've got young people's organizations such as NSPCC, you have youth clubs that you can go to. I run a football young academy. We have safeguarding protection measures as well. So please, reach out. If we sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger or someone that's not sort of a blood relative of yours, and you can sort of let your feelings and your share a problem. What's the old saying? A problem shared is a problem halved. And sometimes it's not as bad as you may think. You may really keep on thinking that this is now the end of the world, and really, build up that cooker pressure until you take that extreme measure of maybe doing self-harm or running away from home. It's never that bad. And for those parents as well, you should always have I'm not saying be best friends with your children, but at least have a open dialogue. You should be asking them how are they at school, what do they do in colleges, what are they studying, what happened, and same with their interests, their hobbies. If they are sort of, for example, into their swimming, go with them and drop them off and be part of that experience. I know because of football, just one example, I'm able to connect with a lot of young people that normally, because of my age difference and maybe the class difference and whatever it may be, I've got nothing in common. Apart from saying, "How are you? Okay?" It's the end of conversation. But because of football now, I'm able to sort of bridge that gap and sort of get to know them on a human level, and that makes all the difference. So, all I would say is, please, we are living in very precarious time because of COVID. Everything is, people are really worried about their income. Children, education has been disrupted. We've never had it, this bad. It's all upheaval. But one thing that we don't want is our young people feel as though that they've been suffocated or they've been ignored, and that the only thing that they have to do is run away to somewhere far, or they're a burden onto their family, and that's never the case. So, and only by working together can we make sure that our four walls are the perfect environment for our young children to be growing up in. I hope that's okay. I'm going to give you the final word as well, Zeenat, before we bring the show to a conclusion.
I was going to say, if you are worried about your child or your children, the important thing is, like Ali mentioned, just talk to them. Communication plays a big part. With the child, they will rebel. We know that the child is reaching that puberty age, but try and stay calm, stay resilient. If you can't speak and you can't understand them, get support, especially support from school. They would be able to refer you and signpost you to different services, and just organisations within the community, whether it's your masjid, whether it's your temple, whether it's your church. Speak to someone that you may think that would be able to be relatable to your son. When it gets regarding daughters, just try and get them to meet someone that's going to understand them. The important thing is we want your child safe, especially what's going on in pandemic. You don't want your child to be influenced with social media, TikTok, monitor it, I have to stress this, the lives, you don't understand the amount of things that they listen to, monitor what they listen to, and just try and provide that nurturing kind of balance with your child.
Thank you, Zeenat. Really useful discussion. I've learned a lot, and like I said, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to grow up in this social media age where everything is on social media. When we grew up, there was a certain amount of innocence. We were allowed to grow up, be kids. But now, I think with everything that's going on, you got to look, the best. You got to, be in the clique. You got to wear the right brand, be on the right, right phone, so on. The pressures are enormous, and like I said, that's why I think we have to be extra vigilant, extra careful, extra supportive for our young people. It is tough out there, and just be mindful and just take it easy on them and let them be children until they grow up and want to grow on to become young adults of the future. Thank you, Zeenat. Really appreciative. Until next week, please continue to look after yourselves and each other. God bless.